Hey YouTube, Vermont Prepper here. What you're looking at is the awesome 24 volt, 25,000 pound winch by Sherpa. And Sherpa is made in Australia. And for those of you who are involved in four-wheel drives, if you watch four-wheel drive action, it's a YouTube channel that I'm a big fan of. They probably have some of the best four-wheel drive shops in Australia, and that goes for winches as well. The Sherpa winch, as you might know, I put on my M1029, which is the 17,000 pound version. I forget the name of it. This one's called the Stallion, of 25,000 pound. I don't know, the 17,000 might be called a Steed or something. But I'm going to have a little bit different of a setup, and I think I learned quite a bit from my first install, which did not go very smoothly. I had to cut the line because the line was too tight against the in the spool right there. I ordered the extra line, the extra 50 foot, so I had to cut off about 50 foot to make it fit within the spool. And then I had to redo the end loop with a stainless clamp there, and that was something else, getting that done. In any event, I have a shorter line, it's about 100 foot, so it should be more than enough for what I need for my M1028A2 that I'm putting this on. And the mounting system is going to be a little bit different as well. I am turning in my F-150, my 2016 F-150, and I had a worn 12,000 pound winch on there, the Xeon, and really good winch. It was on a bull bar type of mount that you mount directly to the frame, and just so happens that the Stallion here, the holes mount up perfectly, and I'll be able to use that bull bar after going to a welding shop, of course. I haven't gone there yet, but what I'm going to do is probably just have it so that it's mounted to the shackles, the shackle mounts on the frame of the M1028, and then I'll just secure it with a locking pin, a 1-inch locking pin on each side. And then you can remove it or do whatever you want with it, and you don't have to drill any holes. Like with the Blazer, a guy off of eBay made a sort of like a brush guard type of mount for the M1009, but you have to drill into the original brush guard to mount it, and you go into the you mount it at the bottom of the bumper as well. So you had to get out those bolts which were rusted on in the bottom of the bumper, and I had to actually cut them off. So a lot of headache in getting it done on the Blazer. It came out great, and it works really great, but it's going to be a lot easier with this one, I believe. So the other thing that I'm going to do, which I mentioned in the Blazer video, and you ought to go back and watch how I did that, is I have the longer wires or longer cables that came with this Sherpa, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it to the back bus board, where you can mount, you know, one side positive, one side negative for 24 volt, and it's, you know, you don't mount them up to the battery, you just mount it up to that bus box there. So it's got to run all the way to the back of the firewall to the battery side of the Blazer, which if you're looking at it from the front, it's the left side. And I'll show you right here what I have to do. So basically, what I have to do is remove this bolt right here, and then loosen this nut and this nut to remove this particular shorter version of a cable. And then I have to make some connections for the longer cable. And you see it comes with connectors. And I have my trusty hydraulic crimping tool. And this thing is very, very handy, and they're not that expensive. I recommend everybody get them if you work with battery cables. They're very, very easy, and they're actually a must-have. So, you know, it comes with different dies in there, and you just press them together, and for different sizes, etc. So, yeah, I have to use that for the longer cable, and I'm going to make one for the negative as well. So, much easier than having to go out to the store or having to send away for it. It just makes life so much easier because it comes with the nice caps and everything, and it's all directly made from Sherpa, so much easier. The other thing, I kind of went all out on this one. I got the Factor 55 Ultra Hook. And the reason why I got the Ultra Hook is for this shackle, closed shackle mount system. So basically you put your shackle in here, and I think this is rated to like 30 or 40,000 pounds, I don't know. And then you have your standard hook right here, and this goes nicely. This, I think the hook there is 16,000 pound rated. And this really looks nice against the fair lead. So lastly, the other thing that I did, which I think came out really cool, is this is the front of the fair lead, and it's a license plate mount that you see right there. It clamps to the rollers, and then you can just open it up, and it actually hides and protects the Ultra Hook. So the Ultra Hook will just sit right in there. So it's pretty cool. And I did the same on the Blazer, just a different plate. I put the standard yellow and black "Don't Tread on Me" plate. This one I just want to make it a little bit different. The other one's just as cool, but just want to keep them different. So the next thing, what I'll show you is the actual winch bumper mount that I'm gonna use. And what I'll do with that is I'll probably end up bringing it to New Hampshire to the closest Line-X, and then Line-X it after I get everything all welded. And the other thing what I'll do with that bumper is I'll relocate the shackles to the front of that bumper, so I can still continue to use those if I need them. Right, so I have the new cable on here. It's this one right here. I will say that the connectors are not large enough diameter to fit the actual cable, so I had to shorten the diameter a little bit. Not that much, but a little bit, enough to make it annoying. So my recommendation to Sherpa is to remedy that. But we do have a nice long cable here that will definitely fit all the way to the back of the M1028. And I put these brackets on here, and you see the way they have sort of a little locking area. You stick your bolt in there, and then you stick another hex bolt in the bottom, and on all four sides it tightens up. All right, so there's the other side, and then all you do is you center it, which I already centered it. It's 2 3/16 in the middle, or actually in the sides here. All right, and you see it's curved on this side, and then on this side it just goes straight down, and then you just screw in these bolts right here, and then it kind of goes underneath the brace right here, and it holds everything in place. Pretty slick. I used the plate last time for the Blazer when I did this. I didn't realize that you didn't have to use a plate, and I searched everywhere on the internet, and I got a glimpse of this during a video, and from that I was able to figure it out. But there's very few pictures, or there's no directions on how to mount this. I mean, it's just, they just give you a bunch of brackets and have you go at it. I actually painted my brackets. They come in steel. I painted them with the high temperature black spray paint, high performance, and then I put them in an oven to sort of bake it on for about 10-15 minutes, and we're good to go. So everything is wired up, and all I need to do is get my bumper welded, and then I just drop this right in and hook it up to the bus panel on the firewall. See, my wires are all wired up there. This is mounted securely, and the project for right now is completed for the day. Alright, so let's take a look at the bumper here. As I mentioned, this bumper came off of my F-150. It's pretty sturdy, and it's made by Warren, and it comes with braces. You see I have them laying in there, and you bolt the braces onto the bottom right here. There's some holes. Let's see if I can get it. There's some holes there. We're not going to use those holes. We're not going to use those braces. Basically, we're going to get a piece of tubing, square tubing, weld it onto the bumper in the bumper in the bed, and then we're going to put pins through it like the shackles. We're going to remove these shackles, and I have a lockable pin, and they'll use 4140 steel, which is the strongest steel that you can get. And these shackles will be relocated to the front of that worn bumper. We'll do that on both sides. And then it keeps the integrity of the brush guard intact. It keeps the integrity of the frame intact. There's no welding necessary. There's no holes that need to be drilled. This is probably the best way to do it. The guy at the welding shop said it's probably the best way anyway. I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas, but my main concern was keeping everything intact. I didn't want to degrade the character of the vehicle. That was important to me. So the upgrades that I'm doing, at least I don't believe they degrade the character of the vehicle. I mean, it makes it a little more roadworthy, off-road worthy actually, you know, putting in the Yukon locker in the front and the Yukon hubs, and given the Vermont weather in the winter, you have to have some pretty sturdy and pretty beefy components in your suspension especially. So in any event, that's what I'm going to do. And the next time you see this will be a couple days with the bumper intact and the winch ready to just drop in. Here's the bumper mounted. And you see what the welding company did? They fabricated these bars right there, relocated the shackles to the front, and it's nicely pinned with some weatherproof master locks. They're the high security ones on both sides. And then right here I got some, we have it bolted down there. So you might say, well, why is it bolted down there and you have it locked on the other side? Well, I'm going to get the locking bolt or locking nuts. I actually ordered them off of a fastener company in New Jersey, and we're going to lock them so it makes it harder to remove for those would-be thieves. And again, relocated the shackles in the front. Everything's nice and neat. The bumper is 10 inches from the brush guard here, and that means that I can just drop in the winch without having to remove it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I remember mentioning in an earlier segment here that I was going to have it Line-X'd. Well, I called Line-X and they said that I have to not only strip it, but it's going to cost me like $300 to Line-X it. So for that amount of money, I figured, well, let me try it myself. I looked online and I remember watching a four-wheel drive action video. I'm a big fan of those guys. And they used a product called Raptor, which is a bed liner, on their frame. So I remembered that and I looked it up on Amazon, and I could get 4 liters of it for $119. And then I got a Lematac sandblaster for $79. So I'm going to do it all myself. And then I have the sandblaster if I want to do like stuff underneath the vehicle, maybe the Blazer. I want to do the frame on a Blazer, sandblasted, and maybe Raptor coat that. So I have everything. So I'm going to sandblast it myself, and then I'll try the Raptor as well and see how it comes out. And if I like it, I'll do it to my Blazer underneath. So that's what the next step is. But everything came out pretty good on this. I'm very pleased with the workmanship and how neat and clean everything is as far as the mounting goes. It's very sturdy. I'm shaking it here and you can't move it, so it's not going to rattle when you're driving. And then we have right here the bull guard on top, which I'll put some Baja design lights, and then maybe some smaller Baja design lights here, or maybe even the same size. I'm going to get the LP9 Pros, and we'll see how they fit on the bottom as well as the top here. And if not, I could always mount them here. I'd like to avoid drilling holes if I have to, but if it fits there, I might put them there. They actually work really well on the Blazer right there, the height of them, so maybe I'll do that. We'll see. Alright, so here's my setup for sandblasting. And I went through a bunch of it. I had to do some trial and error here to get it working right. It seems to work better when you dump it in the hopper there instead of doing a siphon there. That siphon doesn't work great. And the other thing is I had to go out and spring for a regular air compressor instead of this little pancake right here, because the pancake wasn't providing enough CFMs at all. So it just didn't work. So we went out and we got a 27-gallon DeWalt single stage oil cooled, and works really well. And I'll give you an idea on how this sandblaster works here. Here's my respirator setup. All right, So you may hear the compressor kick on after I go do this a little bit, but I'm using aluminum oxide. I got 19 pounds off of Amazon for about like 60 bucks. It goes pretty quick. It's my first time doing this, so I kind of wasted a bunch, but if I had to do it all over, I'd probably get like a big tub and line it with plastic because you can recycle it. All right, here goes. Here's the finished sandblasted product. As you can see, it's all roughed up. It didn't take things down to the metal. I didn't really expect a cheapo sandblaster to do so, but I don't really need to do that. At least I don't think I do. So it came out pretty good. Again, there's the unit that I used. And I sprayed these hooks that I'm going to put on the front as well. That's a primer specially made for the Raptor undercoating or bed liner. And that's for bare metal. They have one that is for regular surfaces, which I'll use on most of this. And you just spray the bare metal primer on the bare metal. So that's what I'm doing next. Here's my first pass at the Raptor liner. And this is one coat. Very easy to apply, very easy to mix, and very easy to clean up. Very rare that you get all three of those characteristics in one product. Very little mess. You just have to make sure that you don't have anything around that you don't want sprayed for overspray around this. So here's my setup right here. I set it up on hooks, and it's a cable, lock cable line. And I set it through the hole right there, and it gives me the ability to work around it really easy. And I was able to get everything in one pass. And in addition to that, I had enough left over to do the hooks that are going to go underneath, as well as the bars that it mounts to. Here's the bars. All right, so here's how it works. So you basically have 4 of these in the kit that I got, and it comes with a hardener, 32 ounces, and each bottle here is 24 ounces, so you mix 3 to 1. They give you this fill cup right here, and you fill it up to the 8 ounce right there, and you just pour the whole thing into the bottle. So that gives you your 3 to 1. Then they give you a spray gun, and I had to hook a compressor fitting right there, just standard, and then you just screw this onto the bottle, and you set your PSI between 40 to 60. I set it to a little bit less than 50, and no particular reason why, I just did. I figured in the middle the texture will be, you know, not too heavy and not too light. So I'm pleased with the way that texture came. It came out really good, and I'll go over it one more time, and then I'll still have 2 liters left in case I want to do undercoating to the Blazer. All right, here's the bumper on the truck with shackles. I put the fair lead on there, and I have a flip top, which I'll show you. And what this flip top does is it just comes up, and my hook will actually fit right nice in there, and this front will protect it from the elements a little bit at least. And I still got to put the top roller on, and I'll do that after I run the winch line through there, make it a little bit easier. And again, the shackles. The other thing that I wanted to show you is these nuts right here. So these are the tamper resistant nuts, and I got 4 of them total, 2 on each side, and that will help reduce the theft of the bumper, because the bumper is bolted to these shackles, or to these arms right here. And then on top of that, I went and got a chain, and I chained it to one of the locks right there from the actual bumper. So maybe it's overkill, but in Vermont we don't have very much crime, but sometimes I'm not in Vermont, so I'll have to worry about it less. Again, it's not going to prevent somebody who's really motivated, but it's going to take them a while to steal this. It's not going to be very quick, and we all know that thieves want to be really quick about it, so it's going to deter a lot of things. Next thing I'm going to show you is the quick connect I made for the winch, where if I had to remove it, I don't have to take the wires out from the bus board in the back. It's one of those power pole adapters, that one of the big ones, where you can use for up to 4.0 gauge battery wire, even though mine is for the winch is only 2.0 gauge. So that's the next thing, which I already did, and I'll do it in another segment. And that's it for now. Okay, here's the finished product. As you can see, I hooked up the Factor 55 hook, the Ultra hook, to the shackle, because you can't put this connector like some other smaller winches. You can't put it through the fair lead and have your winch hook sit right behind there. It's not going to work with this one. So the cable's thicker on a 25,000 pound winch, so it's all right. I like the look of it. Actually, it actually was a nice change. So I'm not at all dissatisfied with it. As you can see, I have a quick disconnect, and I'm not sure how if I'm gonna keep that mounting with the zip ties, but we'll see. For right now, it's good enough. And what else here? I guess there were some snags when I was hooking it up to the battery, actually to the bus board in the back. When I first hooked it up and tried it, what happened, bottom line, terminals were loose right here. Actually just this one. And it took me a while to figure it out. I thought, well, maybe my quick connect, I did something wrong with that, because for this one, you know, it goes up to 4.0 gauge cable or wire, whatever you want to call it, and I had to really clamp down on the connectors in order to get them to clamp securely around a 2/0 gauge line. So I thought, well, maybe it didn't clamp down enough. But when I got a tester, I had to get a tester out, and I tested, make sure I was getting 24 volts there, and I was. So I knew it had to be something, either the solenoid or some kind of connector. And sure enough, you know, when I moved this, it just moved back and forth. And there must be some kind of ground in there or something that when you tighten it down, it made everything work, and it works great. I also rewrapped the line, and what I did there is you want to make sure the line is taut when you're doing that. So I hooked up a 3-ton jack and turned it upside down on the grass, and that was just enough to keep the line taut as I was rolling it up. It got loose quite a bit from just moving around and things like that, and just sitting. So all in all, great project, great addition, and now this thing is just pretty much unstoppable. I don't think I'll ever get stuck. Next project up is front and rear regearing. I'm going from 410 to 488, and I'm also putting a rear locker. The stock versions of these things actually came with 456, but this did not. Somebody must have regeared it at some point and put an open differential in the front. I had a front locker put in, but now I'm doing a whole thing. I want to make sure that I have both front and rear lockers. I'm also going to put a twin stick in there from ORD, and I'm actually driving 8 hours back to Hillbilly Wizard to do it, because I really don't trust too many people to do work on these things, because there's little odds and ends and idiosyncrasies that these trucks have that he's well aware of, and he's probably seen just about every issue you can see, and he's an expert in axles. So for those reasons, I think it's worth the 8-hour drive. I put this much time and money into it. Why not do it the right way? So in any event, I hope you liked the video. I'm glad you lasted this long if you did. And as always, keep prepping. Vermont Prepper out.